Wala, Jewelry Design Faculty at the Arch College of Design and Business, Jaipur, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to another inspiring session as we celebrate World Industrial Design Day 2026. This year's theme by the World Design Organization, Let's Talk Resilience, reminds us that great design is not just about creating beautiful products, it is about creating solutions, preserving heritage, embracing innovation, and building a future that can adapt to change. At Arch College of Design and Business, these values are at the heart of everything we do. Established in 2000 under the visionary leadership of our founder and director, Mrs. Archana Surana, Arch has been nurturing designers, entrepreneurs, innovators, and industry leaders for over 2 decades. Jewelry has always been one of Art's strongest areas of excellence. From jewelry design, manufacturing, gemology, and CAD to entrepreneurship, branding, global industry exposure, our students are encouraged to see jewelry not merely as an ornament, but as a blend of art, technology, culture, and business. Through collaborations with leading jewelers, artisans, manufacturers, and industry bodies, we prepare students to preserve India's rich craftsmanship while designing for the future. Earlier today, we began with an inspiring session by Gulmohar Lane co-founders Saurabh Elwadi and Shweta Mewara, who spoke about building resilient creative enterprises through purpose and innovation. Now we move to another industry that beautifully represents India's legacy, the jewelry industry, where tradition meets technology and craftsmanship meets innovation. To discuss how resilience and leadership are helping this industry evolve, we are truly honored to have Mr. Manuj Goyal, sir, who is the Managing Director of Pinkcity Jewels. Pinkcity India's primary focus is on gems and jewelry business. Pinkcity Jewel House has 3 factories that produces high quality jewelry using genuine colored gemstones and diamonds for major brands, e-commerce and large format retailers in US and Europe. Sir's extensive experience and success in international business, his ability to produce international quality goods, experience in managing skilled workers, and his constant innovations in his business gives him the background required to build and manage a successful business. Manoj sir completed his bachelor's in commerce from the State University, Jaipur, India, and graduated in the gemologist program of the Gemological Institute of America. Sir is a member of the Governing Council of TIE Rajasthan, the Responsible Jewelry Council's SDG Task Force, and State Council of Indian Chamber of Commerce. Sir, on behalf of the entire Arch family, thank you for sparing your valuable time to be with us today. Before we begin our discussion, I would request you to share your thoughts on World Industrial Design Day and what this day means for the jewelry industry. Over to you, sir.
Well, Nikita, thank you so much for having me here, and I really thank
Our pleasure,
you
sir.
know sorry.
Our pleasure, sir.
Okay. And I additionally want to recognize and thank Archana Surana. I've known Archana ji for a long time, and I really admire the kind of work and she's brought in. In fact, I would not hesitate in suggesting that Arch is one of the foremost design thinking institutes and has really made a quite a impression and impact in our society in the jewelry community here today. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing. So I'm happy to be speaking to your audience, which I believe is although all the people who are um, either aspiring designers or studying design or who take design as well as jewelry design as a seriously as a career. And I'm very thankful and intrigued to know I was not aware that there was a day called Industrial Design Day. I'm so happy
Oh.
to hear this. So it's coming from you, and I'll make a mark to enjoy and celebrate this from next year onwards.
Of course. Thank you, sir. So I really liked your thought that yes, like we all know, for the designers, design is not only about beauty, but it's about creating value and shaping the future. So, sir, let's begin our conversation.
Please.
Yes. So on today we celebrate World Industrial Design Day. From your perspective, what role does design play in strengthening the jewelry industry beyond just making beautiful products?
So I think the question itself has answers, and I think I just merely need to point this out to to everyone that design is not just complete in just making a design, unless a design is actually solving a problem, unless the design is built to scale the product up, unless the design is aimed at a particular, let's say, so when we look at a design, for example, we look at a brand. Now, what does the brand appeal to? Who does the brand appeal to? What is the target audience? Unless we are designing something that basically meets the expectation or exceeds the expectation of an audience, um, the design is not, the design work is not complete. So I would say the design starts from aesthetics, which is the central, but then it needs to have a lot of other factors that complete the picture, which include scalability of production, that includes materials, material efficiency. Look at today's market, for example. When today, silver and gold in the last years have been so volatile. Um, if a brand has a particular price segment and the design is not consistent with the with the production capability, or the meeting the price expectation of a consumer, then the design work is not complete. So I think we need to really stress that design starts from aesthetics and the form and function and design thinking, but needs to extend to manufacturing efficiency, target goals, and also keeping sustainability in mind. Now, sustainability as well, I would like to introduce this as a strong pillar that we need to look at ground up when we're looking at materials, when we're looking at design, because if we are thinking of creating the future, each brand is now looking at sustainability in a very serious manner. And it starts from materials and it starts from design. So I think the whole job of a designer, uh, again emphasizing, will start from not just a concept but creating a commercially viable and a responsible product. And I think that is why I would say, the role of design extends beyond the beauty. It's a lot of other aspects as well that we need to be aware of.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the same context, like all know that jewelry industry beautiful balances centuries old traditions. So how can jewelers preserve their heritage while embracing new designs, trends, and technologies?
So I think when we talk about heritage and technology, they go hand in hand. I think we normally put them against each other, and that is not the right approach. Without heritage, we are nowhere. But honestly, we have a very strong heritage, and we should leverage it. So if you look at our, the legacy of India, legacy of Jaipur, we've had a strong legacy which was fueled by the passion and that are even the kings and the emperors who ruled India, and even beyond, like way 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 beyond. If you look at our culture, I happened to be, for example, in National Museum of National Gallery, Delhi, and I saw jewelry from the old times, from one BC, and I was shocked, personally pleasantly surprised by the kind of jewelry craftsmanship we had in those years. So, we've come a long ways, and unless we are able to supplement our heritage with today's, technology, we are not able to create a, I would say, a collaboration which is complete. So today, whereas when we have adoption of CAD, CNC tools, whether it is printing or machining, a lot of automation which has come about. But I think we need to really uh, learn from what we've our artistry, learn from the artistry that our heritage has shown us,
Mhm.
and then combine it with with the modern tools and technology, so that we are able to create art but at a fair market price. Because art, as takes time, and it's can't be mass produced. But if you have to take art and create make art accessible to people, then we have to leverage technology. And that is why your question is very relevant. Unless we are preserving heritage and embracing innovation, we are not able to make a business out of
Correct. So you have given me the answer of my next question also.
it.
That was like technology, just such as CAD, 3D printing, AI, and advanced manufacturing is transforming jewelry production. So I think this sums up this also.
No,
So
I mean all these. I mean, what is your next question? Because everything is is interrelated,
yes,
and I think it's a uh, I think is the subject that needs to be discussed and understood definitely
correct.
by all.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So but because our industry had been facing difficult times, from last 5 to 10 years. So looking back at the challenges of recent years, what do you believe has been the biggest lesson in resilience for jewelers?
So look, today true resilience is built on the foundation of responsibility and adaptability. Unless we are able to adapt to changes, and be creative. Like for example, again, I would cite the example of volatile metal prices.
Mhm.
Today there is a market, because the jewelry is becoming very expensive, for common man to afford. There is a new range of in a new category that is evolved, which didn't occur before. It's called demi-fine.
Yes,
So I mean, that is a I mean, a demi-fine is a word, or a category that is more relevant in the last 8 to 10 years. It didn't exist before, and that is how you are today. Design is being made relevant to today's time. That speaks for the adaptability that the trade needs to show and has shown, in adapting to the consumer preferences, to the challenges that have been that we've faced, from the advent of lab grown diamonds to to whatnot. There are challenges that are that come about every day in our industry, and either we need to embrace them and see how we can monetize on those newer opportunities, or we can see we can take them as a challenge, and sort of have a more bloomer outlook. I think we should embrace technology, embrace the challenges that come about our ways, and as they say, if life gives you lemons, take them and run with them. Am I audible?
yes, yes. I think there was some disturb some disturbance. But now, am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes. I think you were also breaking up, but now it's better.
Yes, yes. So please continue. You were saying something.
No, so I mean, I think this is, what I said was, we need to be embracing challenges on a in the parlance of cricket, on a front foot, you know, and see how we can adapt, and how we can continue to innovate, when we face these challenges, and not treat them as a roadblock.
Yes, yes. And that's the reason like young jewelry designers are entering the industry with very fresh ideas and I think innovations. So would you like to give some advice to them to ensure that creativity is supported by practical business understanding and market demand? Because you have such a list of experiences. So that would help the new designers.
Well, I think if you're a designer, or whatever role that you are in, the first and the foremost is that you have to be in love with the process. You need to really be committed, not just from a sake of your mind, but also mind, body, and soul.
Questions
And if
and
you're putting into, is there something there?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Okay.
So you need to be mind, body, and soul behind the process. And if you're doing that, you will need to go deeper than just sketching, for example. Now this is, for young users. So understand metallurgy, understand gemstones, understand the rarity of gemstones, and how these beautiful, creation of nature are undersold, under monetized. It's just because nobody's been able to understand them, take the story forward, and celebrate or romance the stones. So unless you've studied this, unless you studied history, unless you've studied gemology, you will not be able to appreciate the whole craft that we are in. When we talk about jewelry design, it's not just creating a beautiful design without understanding how do I actually bring it to life. What are the how do I bring something, how do I create something which is a path breaking, which has really gone and explored the depths of design thinking. I look at sometimes, the constantly, the products when we say we, the whole industry makes, for example, and has not yet leveraged or solved a lot of questions. I was the other day, sitting with some really high-end designers in London, and we were brainstorming on, like, even the findings. Now, without design thinking, you know, uh, we can't actually look at creating a next generation of a bracelet clasp, which older women, can actually wear it with one hand. So if she's putting on a bracelet, without assistance, getting assistance from somebody else, how she can actually lock and unlock a bracelet? As simple as that. How she can, with fingers, that really don't sometimes reach, the hands don't reach the back. How she can actually lock and unlock, a neck piece. So design thinking needs to be explored from not just a sense of beauty and aesthetics, but from the scale of solving a problem, really looking at how do I actually uh, create a life easy? How do I create in today's world where any new concept very
Mhm.
easily catches traction, especially on Instagram, and it has become quite a leveler. You
Yes.
know, it is a great opportunity where we are able to do this, because any such solution that you are able to find has a far chance of getting an impact. Because today, uh, you know any path breaking idea like that can really catch the eye of a consumer and can go viral. So here is a beautiful scenario that we have the advancements of technology, advanced CAD CAM and other manufacturing techniques, where we have an ability to solve yesterday's problems.
Mhm.
Um, it's just basically us now getting to next level and looking at this very seriously and creating an impact. Now, also the advice to young designers is that find your signature. That's one thing which I really am very whenever I speak to young people, I feel that it's something that is a must. Because if your pieces don't reflect a certain ideology, a certain aesthetic, a certain design language, it's very difficult to create your identity. And creating your identity and creating an identity for India, both are very, very important, um, you know, for the jewelry community if you want to make a big name.
Mhm.
Because if you look at the design, if a consumer can't relate to looking at the design and associating that with a designer, it's an incomplete job. And if you look at all the brands today that we all get inspired by, whether it is a Cartier or a Van Cleef, or we talk about Harry Winston, we are able to look at them and say, okay, even if the piece does not, we can't read the hallmark, we're able to look at the piece and say distinctly, look at Sabyasachi, what he's done today in the Indian market. He's been able to create a design language for himself, coming from a textile background, and translating that to jewelry. I think it's super inspiring. I don't think anybody needs to ape or create copies, but what one needs to do is your I would say your niche, your aesthetic, and build upon it. Now, very very important. So lots of your question has multi-part, pointers, that I want to give.
In this same
It's
context, so sorry to interrupt, but like if a jewelry designer makes a mark,
yes,
so talking about the consumer point of view, consumer
yes.
preferences are evolving rapidly. So in your opinion, what design trends or customer expectations should jewelers or designers prepare for over the next 5 to 10 years?
Um, I think, understanding the customer is very important, and not every designer or every designer should aim at solving the expectations of everyone. A design has to be loved by the target market, even if it doesn't appeal to a larger group. I think that is what is very, very important. So, when I say that you have to discover your mark, you have to look at who really the audience is, um, and obviously, look at, what are their expectation. Is this a brand that is going to produce heirloom pieces? If it is an heirloom piece, then you are looking at, craftsmanship and materials and product reliability, that it in very very differently, because it needs to survive not just one generation but 2 or 3 generations, right? When you're looking at something more fashion, then you're looking at something with a different lens altogether. You're looking at, how do I bring high street fashion, something that was showcased on a Milan Fashion Week or a London Fashion Week or a Paris Fashion Week? How do I get inspired by, the latest reports, the fashion reports that come in? How do I make my, how do I go first to the market with the design trends that are being, talked about? So, again, very different line of approach. So, understanding your target market and then evolving a strategy is very, very important.
Yes, yes, absolutely so. So, now, if we talk about everybody in our industry, be it jewelry designers, manufacturers, retailers, education institutions, industry associations, so how the collaboration of all of them is building a stronger and more resilient jewelry ecosystem, and how much is this important for all of us?
So having this partnership is critically important, because nobody can single-handedly build an ecosystem in isolation. Today, the the designers, manufacturers, retailers, educators, associations, they all need to come together, and obviously, look at where is, look at where we are. How does this need to be solved? Uh, Look at inspiring case studies, and then, sort of create a, have, look at a strategy which resonates with, their own business, but obviously learning from, the environment around. Obviously collaboration, is super important, because without collaborating, you are not able to extend this further. I'm, one organization which is, very um, central to my thinking, is the Responsible Jewelry Council, and with that, comes sustainability in picture. So how
Yes,
do we
it
actually
also
also
gives strength, right?
yes, yes.
Because
So
if you are not collaborating with each other, it won't give the industry a strength that is required.
correct, So again, whether it is producing, designing, designing sustainably, um, I think collaboration between the entire ecosystem is a must.
Exactly. So without taking much of more of your time, finally, I would just like you that today in this World Industrial Design Day, what message you want to give to everybody out here, be it designers, be it artisans, students, our students, young entrepreneurs, and everybody out there who is looking forward to enter this industry or is there in the industry.
Well, I think I was quite loud in my I guess loud and clear in my previous questions. But to sum this up, I would say look at your work with a lens of legacy and responsibility. You have a beautiful chance. We are at the cusp of really exploding in an era. The next 10 years for India are quite critical. India will face, or sort of is has a chance to go through a similar curve that China went through 10, 15 years back. So we have a great opportunity. All of you have a great opportunity to really be successful in whatever you're doing. Let us create objects that outlive us, carry emotions across different generations. Let's design with a conscious, um, respect the planet, people, the supply chain. Let's create something beautifully, but in a responsible manner. Let's use technology and tools to honor heritage and build upon what we've inherited from our past. Let's not lose the human element of craft. Ultimately, we need to celebrate our artistry amongst our people. And I think, we jewelry is so beautiful because, with the product that we produce, somebody is going to wear it and carry it as a mark, as a beacon of beauty. But for us, it's a human achievement for centuries. So I think it's a beautiful industry that we are in, and we need to really enjoy being in it, and extending our experiences so far.
Beautifully said, sir. Thank you so much. Your thoughts have beautifully reminded us that the future of the jewelry industry is balancing tradition with innovation, craftsmanship and technology, and creativity with strong leadership. I'm sure everyone out here who is listening to this, they will have valuable insights today that will guide them in their own professional journeys. So, sir, on behalf of Arch College of Design and Business, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for sharing your wisdom and inspiring us on this special occasion.
Well, thank you so much, and wishing all the audience, greetings on the World Industrial Design Day. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So, as we continue celebrating World Industrial Design Day 2026, our next session takes us from industry leadership to innovation driven entrepreneurship. So, that for that, please stay with us for another inspiring conversation after some time. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much once again.